Right here, I'm sanding so I can prep it to put a decal on there, like a name. This one is actually going to have like the school mascot, but sometimes my pin holder or turner, my pin turner, sometimes it leans, so more of the epoxy will collect here at the tip. So that's why I just get an X-Acto knife and kind of carve it to kind of like even it out with the rest of the pin. It's not going to be perfect, but I try to just get some of that extra epoxy that builds up on the top, and then I just sand it. And then, if you've seen previously, I know I wasn't talking in the beginning, but I just grab like a little terry cloth and wipe it down, wipe the excess epoxy from sanding it. And then I'm just gonna do the same thing to the rest of these and just prep it for decal. Prepping it for the decals that I'm gonna put on there. And I'm not sure what kind of sander this is. This one, I don't know if you can see that. This is just a kind, a little sander block that my husband gave me. And as you can tell, pretty much all the videos that I've been, different clips, you'll see that I'm wearing different shirts, just because making pins it does take some time. So it takes a few days, you know, because making a pin, there's several steps. You know, you have to prep the pin, paint or leave it black. If I'm doing dark colors, I normally don't spray paint it or paint it, because I just go with the black base that's already there. And then either you can use UV resin or epoxy, or I've seen people do Mod Podge. Some people actually use the paint. If they do paint it, they use that way of, you know, putting the glitter on so the glitter can stick to the pin. And then, but I prefer using epoxy, so I'll put epoxy on there like you saw in the beginning and put the glitter. And then I always end up putting like 2 more layers of epoxy on top of the glitter, just so it's not bumpy where you don't feel the glitter underneath, and so you can sand it to put the decals on. Because if you put the decal on with the bumpy surface, the decal can either look bumpy or it can make the decal come off of the pin. And then when you do put a layer of epoxy, you'll see the decals coming off, and then you try to sand it down, you will sand the decal itself. So that's why I end up putting like 2 layers of epoxy on top of the glitter, especially because the first layer, that one normally just but drinks up the epoxy into the glitter. So that's why you more than likely have to do 2 layers. So it does take a few days. So far, putting the epoxy with glitter and then 2 layers of epoxy, that's already 3 days. And then you put the decal on, and then you put another layer on top of that, so that's another day. And then most of the time when you do put another layer on the decal, you still will feel the bumpiness of the decal, so you might have to just lightly sand and then put another layer of epoxy. So altogether it can take up to 5 days to make a pin. So And sometimes you can still fill the decal over even the second layer of epoxy, so you might need to do one last layer of epoxy. So just depends how it comes out. So like if you look at this one, I don't know if you can see like that texture. This one is the glitter with one layer of epoxy on it, so you can see the bumpiness of it, because that's still the glitter right there. So if you were to sand this part here, you will scratch or sand the glitter and it will turn it silver. And I sand a little bit here because I guess a little bit more epoxy was collected here, so I can just sand a little bit there to kind of smooth it out, because I'm going to try and put a decal right here. Probably not. I probably need to put one more little layer of epoxy, because the same thing here, right here is smooth, but on this side here it is bumpy from the glitter. And sometimes if I'm able to get a spot where it's smooth, I try to use that so the pen won't get too bulky from all the layers of epoxy. So next I'm gonna print out some decals that go on these pins, and then I'll show you how I put not show you how I put the decal, but just show you when I put the decals on there.